So that we've talked a lot about it, and this kind of summarizes. A lot of these things can be summarized, but these last two questions are really about summarization. So, how does culture factor into the success or failure of incentive programs? And so, I'm going to go back and start with you because you started on the behaviors piece, and I also think the cultural aspect of your where you spent your career, they have a very strong culture, and you've talked a lot about how they kind of codified that culture and said these are the very specific behaviors that really, culminate together into creating that culture. So, how does culture factor into the success or failure of incentive programs?
Well, it's certainly there for the failure of a program. It certainly helps with the success, but it can totally kill a program. It's looking at I kind of compare it to the fact that once you sign a contract, you are now, cut into the terms and conditions. You know what your margin is the day you start. Really, you can lose a lot of money in the field. It's really hard to make more money than you had anticipated, but it's really easy to lose money. The money that can be made many times is before that contract is even signed, right? So looking at before the award. In this particular case, it's the same kind of thing. There is a lot that can be done with the culture that is really in the right frame of mind. The organization, the culture that I came from really was very much about looking at it as a holistic approach, that holistic attitude of, does this incentive program really encompass all things that we feel are important: safety, quality, compliance, production, retention, and recruiting of people, right? It was a very holistic approach. And since those were the things that were measured on a regular basis, quarterly, weekly, monthly, those were the things that it made sense that those could be incentivized and that the program would succeed. It was never a one-time fits-all program. It very much continued to evolve as the company continued to evolve. So failure can happen quickly, success takes time, but if it's built into all aspects of meetings and conversations, there's a great chance for success.
Courtney, what do you see with culture, and how would you describe it?
I would echo what Sue said about this, and maybe even emphasize it a little more. Culture, disjointed culture, a bad culture will kill an incentive program. And in fact, an incentive program in a bad culture will make a bad culture worse. And so you have to be really careful of that. So you have to understand what you want to address within the organization. One of my favorite cultural expressions of one of my clients, started with a 4-page vision statement and mission statement, and they, after working on it for several months, they actually pared it down to 2 words. For their company, this totally makes sense to them. The 2 words are enriching lives. And so in every meeting that we have, you'll hear somebody bring up, whether it's a meeting to, address a problem, to maximize a success, or whatever it is, someone will say, well, whose life is this enriching? How is this benefiting our customers, our employees, my coworkers? And getting people as a culture to think about that. That ultimately has permeated the organization, great culture, so that when they come up with their incentive programs and their goals, and they're well aligned, because they're thinking not just about themselves, they're certainly thinking about themselves, but also who else's lives is impacted positively from this, including customers and vendors and other employees. It's pretty exciting to see. Now, the other side is if you have an incentive program that is, like Sue said, just nuts and bolts, here's the math of it, You do X, you get Y. What you tend to do is build walls between functional groups, making effective silos in the organization, even at the same roles, right? So you can have silos in your field supervision, silos in if you have a service department, silos in your estimating department, silos in your project management group, and so on. And the culture of your company should really be actively breaking down those silos so that we're all pointed in the same direction and we have the same vision.